From Miller Waldrop Studios, this is Campus Live.
What's up, Campus Live fans? It's Lane here in the Miller Waldrop Studios today to bring you another edition of the Blazin podcast, episode 14. As always, I'm one of your hosts today, and alongside me today is Mr. Logan Wilson. It's been a minute, Logan. How have you been?
Oh man, been good. Been traveling a lot, but glad to be back on the pod, man. It's been a long time, man. How you been?
And obviously, shout out Will and Jordan behind the camera as well. Always doing the best behind the camera work, everything that they got going on, and we just want to thank them for everything they do for the Guns Blazin podcast as well. And obviously, it's been a kind of a few weeks since our last episode. We did record episode 14 a few weeks ago. Had some technical difficulties with that uploading, so this is technically episode 14, but our 15th episode recorded. It is a jam-packed week, Logan. Texas Tech sports, obviously. The Olympics just wrapped up. College basketball now a few weeks away from March Madness. But first, before we head into that, I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in every single time we put out one of these episodes. And we just ask that you make sure to like all of our videos and follow and subscribe wherever you see our content on social media, whether it's at the Guns Blazin podcast or Campus Live TTU, and as well as thanking our sponsors for the Guns Blazin podcast with Roofmaster of Lubbock. Fans, with storm season now only a few weeks away before that kicks off, make sure to check out Roof Masters of Lubbock. If you have any roof damage, definitely don't want to have any roof damage right before we head into our bad storm season here in the state of Texas. And also, we just want to thank our sponsors with JSI Industries and the exceptional community hospital here in Lubbock. Logan, it's been quite a while since we've had an episode, but recently, what's going on in the sports world. Have to give a quick shout out to all the U.S. Olympians from these past 3 weeks. Before we get into Texas Tech sports, we just wanted to shout out all the athletes that medaled in all the different sports, and of course our hockey teams both getting the gold medals over Canada, men's and women's. That was so awesome to see. Our women, they scored the 2-1 goal to beat Canada, and then obviously Jack Hughes with the amazing overtime goal against Canada. Logan, what did you think about that?
Man, that was fun to watch. To be able to pull off, both of those wins. Canada played really well in the men's game for sure, really took control of the game for a majority of it. USA comes out on top when it matters, and another gold medal for the U.S. I want to shout out, the women in this entire Olympics as they took home 67% of the gold medals for Team USA. They had an amazing showing. I think it was just a big showing for Team USA in the Winter Olympics. Historically not as prevalent as we are in the Summer Olympics, but a big showing for them this time around.
Absolutely. 29 gold medals. It's pretty amazing. But as we, kind of the Olympics just got wrapped up, back into the thick of things with college sports. Really right now it's college basketball that's kind of the headlining of the sports world. And, of course, Texas Tech in the thick of things. 20-7 this year. Obviously, with wins over Duke, Houston, Arizona, BYU, and some others. We kind of in this segment just wanted to really go over this whole entire season and kind of look ahead to where we possibly could be, especially now with the unfortunate news of JT Toppin being out the rest of this season. They had a great game this past Saturday, obviously after an extremely emotional week, after not only losing to Arizona State, but also losing the best player in the country in JT Toppin. You saw Coach Grant McCastle in his press conference this past week saying how emotional it was. You saw him start to tear up. He couldn't talk, when he said JT, he was just like, man, I just want to be out there, Just shows to the level of really compassion and spirit that JT has as an athlete in this program. Logan, what's kind of some of your thoughts on how that whole deal went down?
It was a tough day. It was one of everything that could go wrong for Texas Tech in that game went wrong. You lose on the road to a team that, had struggled, but the biggest loss was obviously JT Toppin, and what JT has meant to this team all season has been nothing short of, miraculous. Like, he has been the guy, like you said, best player in the country. He was on his way to back-to-back Big 12 Player of the Year awards. He was the heart and soul of that team. I know you see Christian Anderson. He's a big part of it as well. But JT being able to score and facilitate late in clocks when the team needs a bucket. We saw it in the Arizona game. specifically just a couple days before that, where they travel to Tucson, they take down the #1 team in the country, the highs of highs for Texas Tech, and then the lows of lows just a couple days later. This team has the talent around him to pick him up, but I feel like Graham Castle talked about it perfectly. This team is not going to replace JT one of one. It's going to take 4 or 5 guys to replace some of what JT did, because there's no replacing everything that he was able to do for this team. But it was a good showing on Saturday. Like you said, emotional time. Kansas State losing their head coach, then they pick up a victory, and then you come out and you just completely blow them out of the water. That's a good sign. But tonight you got a big one against a team that is red hot in Cincinnati. Going into Allen Fieldhouse and taking down Kansas in dominant fashion, and they're one of the best teams since February. And so you're really going to see these guys really have to come together. But JT was obviously the heart and soul on and off the floor, and to lose him, it was tough. It was tough. It really was.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually wrote an article about it on our website, saying how, like how you just said, Grant McCasland even said it. You can't replace JT Toppin. He's the best player in the country, reigning Big 12 Player of the Year. But now, I think kind of a good way to look at it is, you always think of the money ball replacing in the aggregate, saying, that was a baseball slogan, but that's kind of what this team is going to have to do, is try to replace him the best they can with the other guys on the team. And I was really pleased to see our guys respond the way that they did. I won't lie, out with all the emotion that had been going on all week long, I did not know how they were going to look on Saturday. And, I was so pleased to see us go so deep into the bench too. Even guys, we'll discuss here in a second, like Mariel Kuntak, he hasn't played really at all. For him to come in, he had a few points, had 5 rebounds, came in, played like 12 minutes in the game, to have that type of impact, because he has to play the rest of the year. Him and obviously Luke Bangboye was already playing, but he has to be able to come in and spell Luke in those minutes, and to see him perform the way that he did whenever he really hasn't played that much this year, I was really pleased to see that. And the way that Grant McCasland runs his program of being the toughest team, I think that's what you saw on Saturday. Them not only being physically the toughest team, but also mentally the toughest team. And I think moving forward, they're going to have to be mentally the toughest team going, because unfortunately they are down JT, and everyone on this whole entire squad is going to have to chip in. And it's, whether they're outmatched or not, they're going to have to focus on really being the toughest team in every single game, because being without JT now, you're pretty much even. I mean, even against a team like Cincinnati tonight, you don't have that big advantage over the Bearcats tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And Cincinnati's strength is in the front court. You lose your best front court player. I think that's where you're going to see tonight. You got to see guys like Luke, Josiah Mosley, these big body guys that you have in the front court, LaJuan Watts, these guys being able to battle down there with, some of the best front court players in the Big 12 Conference. Mustafa Thiam is playing lights out so far in the last couple of games on their 4-game win streak. He's been great. You saw it against Kansas, and Kansas has, some bigs that can really play, Flory and Bryson Tiller, but they really just, kind of punked him out a little bit, bullied him on the glass, and really took over that game. So, like you said, without JT, without that go-to guy that can do it all, that can block shots, that can rebound, that can score at a high rate, you're going to have to see guys that can be able to pitch in. Luke, 12 points in the last game was great, rebounded really well, a couple block shots. We know he's great on the defensive side of the ball, but he's got to be aggressive on the offensive side of the floor. One thing that stuck out to me, and I think Coach McCasley even talked about it, JT is different than what they have now. JT, short roll kind of guy, looking to get in the lane and with his hook and his float game. But now you have guys like Luke Bamboye, Mariel Kumtak. These are more lob threat guys that maybe open the floor a little bit for guys like Donovan Atwell and C4. C4 being able to get to the mid-range and kick out now as that lane kind of pushes itself closer to the basket. We'll see how that kind of affects. But Coach McCaslin liked what it's allowed his guards to do, and we saw huge games from C4 and Donovan Atwell. Those guys were red hot. They were amazing on Saturday. And Donovan Atwell is the best shooter in the entire country, and what he has been able to bring to this team has been incredible. I think when you brought him in, you thought Kerwin Walton was a comparison. He is now Chance McMillan's replacement, and he has played some of the best basketball that Texas Tech has seen at the guard position in quite a while.
Yeah, they got to be the best backcourt really moving forward in the whole entire Big 12 if they want to even get to a place like the Sweet 16. But as we saw on Saturday, Donovan completely has the ability to do that. And I really liked what I saw too from guys like even Josiah Mosley. He came in, had 5 rebounds, 4 points, and 3 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds. JT was maybe the best offensive rebounder in the whole entire country, averaged about 4 offensive rebounds per game. Losing those second chance opportunities is huge for an offense, especially like us, a team that shoots a ton of threes. You get those long rebounds, and JT would grab them. He'd go back up with it or kick it back out. So to see Josiah Mosley come in and kind of do some of the similar things, obviously he's not JT, but it was very positive to see that he has that in his bag, and we're going to need stuff like that moving forward. Every single offensive possession, if Christian or Donovan isn't scoring, it's going to be a grind. And I did like what I saw from Lawan too, having obviously 19 points, 6 rebounds. He's been really inconsistent this whole entire season. Moving forward, though, he has to be that guy. He has to be really the second. I mean, obviously Donovan can be that second option. I mean, he was even the first option on Saturday, really, but Lawan has to be a consistent second or third option behind Christian, because having those 19 points is huge. He can't have those, 5-point outings that we've seen kind of consistently here in the Big 12, where he'll have a good game with 20 points and then just he's completely a ghost, in the next game, Logan.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's an X factor, and he was an X factor of this team with JT, but now he's definitely the X factor for this team on how they can compete down the stretch. This team has the pieces to fill in the gap of JT Toppin. I think Lawan has to be super aggressive now. Like, he has to be able to get into the post and make those short shots. He was able to make 2 outside shots, a 3 and then a foot on the line too. Those are big for spacing if they're going to let him shoot that. He's been really good in his career from the 3-point line. This year he hasn't shot as many, a little inconsistent from that spot. But if he's able to knock those down, that opens it out. You're allowed to, now you can play him at the 4, play Mosley at the 5, or vice versa, go small. We've seen Mosley be able to knock down some threes. I think that the team is a lot more versatile than people may have thought, coming into the season. And with JT out, I expect a lot more fresh bodies in early, and the bigs are going to be subbed out quick. Coach McCastle said, keep the energy on the defensive side of the game, or of the ball. If you're able to hold teams like he did at North Texas to 65, 70 points a game, this team has enough at the guard spot to get you to 80, 75 to 80, and you'll win a lot of games. But the whole outlook of how you're going to play the game now has changed.
Yeah. And I also, another guy that hasn't played much, and a guy that he was a starter at the beginning of the year, Tyree Bryan. He came in, he had 4 rebounds also. Once again, finding the replacement for a guy that averaged 11 rebounds per game, was basically he was averaging a double-double every single game. So it was really good to see that 6 different guys had at least 4 rebounds for us this past Saturday, and that's got to be the effort going forward. And kind of as we look forward, the selection committee actually released their first grading of every single team this year in the top 16, and they were very respectful to Texas Tech. At least in my opinion, we were the top 4th seed for March Madness if it started today. The 13th overall seed as far as 1 through 16 goes. And I was really surprised to see that they really respected us like that, even without JT still being the top 4th seed. They did say we were on the 3 seed line, and with JT's injury in combination with the Arizona State loss, they did drop us to the 4 seed. But the fact that they respected us that much, where we still definitely, if we keep winning, say you beat a BYU or Iowa State on the road here in the next coming week or so, you could see us move back up to that 3 seed line, and that'd be huge for this team in March Madness. I think definitely now without JT, it's all going to be matchup based, and especially in March Madness, they're definitely going to need the right matchups if they want to make a run to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 or something like that. Logan, what was kind of some of your thoughts on the committee's first grading on March Madness?
You saw some other media outlets, push Tech out of, the top, I think it was probably the top 25, top 26 seeds. They had them as low as the sixth seed, because of the JT loss. But they hadn't seen anything from this team, so I could see where you see it there. JT being such a pivotal part. Team hadn't played. You didn't know what you were going to get out of them. But being the top 4 seed and being on that fringe line is a good spot for Texas Tech, as they have – either way, they had to prove that they could play at the top level, without him. And so a big win, against Kansas State, the way they looked, is a good sign. I think that the next 2 games here that you got are going to be big indicators on how well you can compete and where you can end up. Cincinnati, the 5th best team in the country since February 5th. And then you got Iowa State, who we all know is a top 5 team, a national championship contender. And arguably, I think with the committee, was the last 1 seed on the line. They've had some ups and downs, lost a couple games here and there, but they're obviously still one of the best teams in the entire country. That game in Hilton was already going to be extremely difficult with JT Toppin. Now it is borderline, would take a miracle in some people's eyes. I think this team is tough enough to go in there and win. They have the pieces at the guard spot to compete. But without JT Toppin, that's where you're going to see, can this team really compete in March, or is this just a, win 2 games in March, make it to Sweet 16, and everybody's happy? We're going to see pretty quickly. And I think tonight's the first step with a team on paper that doesn't look like they're the best, but they have rambled off some big wins, and they are now a bubble team that has to win out to be in March Madness. So we'll see what this team looks like, but if anybody's going to do it, it's Grant McCasland.
What sucks the most is, you look at that whole entire seeding list that they come out with. We've beaten Duke, we've beaten Arizona, beat Houston, played Illinois, Purdue, and Kansas. Obviously, the Purdue one wasn't close, but that's how tough our schedule was. And they put this out before Duke and Michigan played, and Duke beat Michigan.
They should be the number 1 overall seed now.
Duke will, as of right now, be the number 1 overall seed. And, it's just a damn shame that we won't get to see JT. I mean, the fact that we beat all those teams and we won't get to see them in March at full strength, Logan.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's tragic, man. This was a season where we went from low, very low at the beginning, a lot of question marks, to this team pulling off the Duke win and then just taking off from there. Yeah. And now we're in a big uncertainty in the Texas Tech basketball program.
Yeah, and tonight, as we kind of move forward to the Cincinnati game, don't know if, we thought this would be the case, but like we said, Cincinnati, now one of the hottest teams in the whole entire country. Just this past weekend, they destroyed a full-strength Kansas squad, a Kansas squad that we saw last night really destroy Houston on their home floor. And, they can't use the excuse that Darren Peterson didn't play in that game versus Cincinnati. He actually played the whole entire game, 32 minutes in that game. And it did not matter. Mustafa Thiem and Baba Miller dominated the whole entire game. Even though Baba Miller is not a great shooter, him and Thiem, they have huge size. Miller obviously averaging a double-double this year, and Thiem averaging 11 and 6. Both of them, Thiem's 7'2", Miller is 6'11", basically both 2 7-footers. And Thiem in that game versus Kansas, 28 points. Baba Miller, I think he had 18 and 12 or something like that, against maybe the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in Flory Badunga. Logan, what did you think of that whole entire performance?
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Not watching a lot of Cincinnati basketball throughout the season, it's still the Big 12. We played them late in the season, wasn't paying too much attention. I knew Mustafa Thiem was their big addition in the portal. Coming from UCF, he was really good last year. Did real well against us, or I guess, they must be our kryptonite at this point. But, Baba Miller coming from Florida State, he's had some ups and downs in his career, but he has found his footing here, at Cincinnati. And, Coach Miller has been able to get these guys in the door, but they haven't produced a lot. This team has a lot of talent. Jizzle James they got a lot of talent, on the floor, but they haven't picked up the wins. They're starting to figure it out now. I think them going into Allen Fieldhouse and doing what they did to Kansas. I know Kansas, before last night with a lot of question marks with Darren Peterson, they pick up a huge win last night over Houston. Now the Big 12 is, again, Arizona's to lose. But, Cincinnati's a really, really good team, and it's going to be a battle on the boards for Texas Tech. We've seen how they've done against some big guys, even with JT, UCF. they struggled with their big man. So we'll see how it goes tonight. It's going to be a battle at the USA.
Absolutely. It's going to be a huge test on our front court. We've been saying it all show. Cincinnati, even though offensively they're not some juggernaut, believe it or not, they're actually the 10th best ranked defense in the country according to Ken Pom. So their defense is amazing. It's been their offense, obviously, that struggled all year, ranks near the 150s in offensive efficiency, and they shoot only about 32% from three. But when they get that actual offense, what we've seen from February 5th, they can beat anyone on any given night. And Wes Miller, he's a tough coach, and he's fighting for his job right now. I mean, there was a lot of people that thought he may have even been fired after they lost at home to West Virginia, and they've rattled off 4 straight wins in a row. And now, like Logan said, they are in the thick of things of the bubble race. And if they would have had Jizzle James all year instead of him being suspended for the first basically month, 2 months of the season, if they would have had him the whole entire year, who knows what their record could be. Maybe they have 2 or 3 more wins instead of sitting at 15-12. But for Cincinnati, if they win this game, I think they are sitting in a great spot to get one of the last at-large spots in the tournament because they have a favorable 2 home games on their schedule, and then they finish off, I think it versus BYU. Even with JT, I think this was going to be a tough game anyway, but now obviously without him, it's going to be even tougher. It's going to be an absolute battle on the glass tonight. And Vegas is in agreement. Even though we are the now 16th ranked team in the country, sitting at 20-7, we're only a 5.5 point favorite tonight, Logan. What do you think about that? 5.5 point favorites.
5.5 point favorites in Vegas, and Ken Pom has it at Tech minus 11. But I think the minus 11 is a huge number with a JT topping list Texas Tech squad. I think 5.5 is about right for this team.
Yeah.
You don't really know. Got a lot of question marks on how they'll play, what they'll look like against a team of this caliber. Obviously, Kansas State has had their problems. They have PJ Haggerty, obviously one of the better players in the country. But they fired Jerome Tang. A lot of problems in that program. You have a team battling for a spot, battling for their coach to keep his job. They need this win. I think you're going to get a hungry team. We talked about it. We've seen hungry teams come and play Texas Tech in the past, and we've struggled, and they've played a lot better than us. Texas Tech has struggled against some of those teams that are in that middle tier. Arizona State, for example, UCF, for example. They've played really good against superior competition and not so great against inferior competition. However, Cincinnati is now in that middle tier, so we'll see how they come out and play. But 5.5 does sound about right.
Hopefully with that win over Kansas, obviously that gets the attention of the guys too. I mean, it's going to be a tough one tonight, and I think that will kind of get us into our injury report segment, fans. It's time for this week's injury report presented by the Exceptional Community Hospital. Before we hop into the injury report for tonight's game, we just wanted to take a moment to recognize the Exceptional Community Hospital as a proud sponsor of Campus Live, and be sure to visit their 24/7 state-of-the-art hospital and ER located at 6401 Spur 327 in Lubbock. They accept all insurances and have short ER wait times. And once again, the Exceptional Community Hospital is a proud sponsor of this week's injury report for the Guns Blazin podcast. Obviously, JT Toppin out for the rest of the season, and then Latrell Hoover is redshirting. Cincinnati, they had been battling injuries kind of all year. Now they are basically fully healthy. Really, it's just JT out, unfortunately, Logan.
Yeah. Sadly, that's the biggest name on the list. And we've talked about injuries all year, but nothing compares to this one.
What sucks is we had been battling injuries all year. Finally, get healthy. You beat Arizona, and then lose JT obviously against Arizona State. But that's really all we have for the injury report for tonight's game. But we wanted to kind of move on to what are some keys to victory for a Texas Tech win versus Cincinnati tonight. Fans, JSI Services is a proud partner of Campus Live for this game's paving the way to victory. Be sure to visit their website at jsiservicesllc.com to learn about their asphalt/paving services, earth and dirt works, concrete and gutter paving, crack fill, seal coating, and stripping services. Thank you once again to JSI Services for their proud support of Campus Live and the Guns Blazin podcast. First, Logan, I think it's containing Cincinnati's bigs plus rebounding. They have a similar – if we have a similar defensive effort like versus Kansas State, like I said earlier, 6 different guys having at least 4 rebounds, we should have no issue winning this game, I think. Luke Bamboye is obviously the new leader of our front court of this group. He has to dominate again. Him having 12, 6, and 3 blocks was what we thought we were going to get for him whenever we got him from VCU. And that's absolutely, in my opinion, the number one key to victory tonight. Logan, what's your first key to victory tonight?
Got to shoot the basketball efficiently. Not so much, got to shoot it great. It needs to be efficient. And that's not just from the three-point line. That's from inside the paint. I think you need to shoot at least 60 or about 55% against this defense. They don't allow much in the paint. The bigs, I think you're going to see a lot of outside shooting. I think that you're going to see Jalen Petty, Donovan Atwell, Christian Anderson shoot from the mid-range to the three-point line. But I think you need to shoot around 60%, 55-60% overall, and probably close to 40% from three-point line to really put yourself in a good position with a team that plays as hard and as hot as Cincinnati is right now.
Yeah, I think C4 and Donovan Atwell, they need to combine for 40-plus again. I mean, this is how you have to win the rest of the year. Shooting great, for like Logan said, from the three-point line, and thankfully you have two of the best shooters in the country. And Donovan, he is the best shooter in the country, at least in our opinion. And, they have to be one of the best backcourts in the country every single game the rest of the year. That's just, unfortunately, with the injury news of JT, that's the way that our team has got to operate really the rest of this whole entire year. I think tonight it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be great defense. Could see a similar type scorer as, kind of like the Kansas game that we had. I think we're going to slow it down on the offensive end. I think we are going to shoot well tonight. I think we shoot good enough. I think we rebound good enough. I think we win a low-scoring dogfight tonight, Logan. I think Cincinnati actually covers that 5.5, but we still win 66-62.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a highly contested game. Before I get into that pick, a shout-out to Donovan Atwell, now the all-time three-point makes leader in Texas Tech history. Shout-out to him, arguably the best shooter that Texas Tech has seen, true shooter that we have seen in Texas Tech history. I think this game's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a tough one, man. The way they're playing, the way we're kind of in that limbo. I think Texas Tech at home, the at home helps. I think the fans are going to be there, be rowdy. I know tickets are a little on the low end. A lot of empty seats available right now. I think we show up tonight. I think Texas Tech pulls this one off 70-66, and they do cover the spread of 5.5.
Sounds good. And that'll kind of be the end of our Tech basketball segment. Tech football, it's been quite a while since we've talked about that. Since the last time we had a show, we did have some pretty big news as far as Tech football goes. We hired 2 new defensive coaches on the staff with Zarnell Fitch and CJ Ayu, obviously both not being retained. Zarnell obviously did not have his contract extended, and then CJ went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They obviously led one of the best defensive groups in the whole entire country this past season. And really, it was basically a week or so of a coaching search. The Red Raiders, they did hire both of their guys, Jacquez Smith from the Atlanta Falcons. He was their outside linebacker coach and their edge coach. He was a ex-assistant at the University of Texas in 2023 before he headed to the Falcons in 2024 as a full-time assistant. And this past season, he helped lead the Falcons to a franchise record 57 sacks from this past year. Obviously, with the edge talent we're bringing in with guys like Adam Trick, Trey White, and LaDamian Guyton, the 5-star coming in, he's going to have a full cover to work with, Coach Smith. And what's kind of some of your thoughts on that hire at the edge position, Logan?
I think replacing, an NFL coach with a NFL coach is great for Texas Tech. You lost one of the best at CJIU. Like, we've seen him be able to bring in talent, not just recruiting, but developing, the guys that we saw last year, obviously the talent that and the production that they had, to bring in an NFL coach who has, like you said, produced, sacks, pressures at the highest level. Guys want to play for NFL coaches to get them to that next level, to be able to get a NFL coach to come in and coach those positions. Those are high priority positions in all of football. No matter what level you're at, college football, you need a good edge, and at the NFL you do as well. So to be able to have a coach of that caliber come in and coach here at Tech really just shows the respect that Coach McGuire and that staff garner from coaches, and what they see in these players that they have brought in.
Yeah, and then obviously with the actual defensive line coach replacing Coach Zarnell Finch, the Red Raiders did hire Amarje Albury from the Minnesota Vikings. Albury is a 32-year-old, and he was a part of the Vikings defense in 2024 that led them to one of the best defenses in the NFL in 2024 when they were the number one overall seed in the NFC. Led the league in interceptions and held a tie for the league lead in takeaways, something that Texas Tech did in a big way this year with takeaways. We seem to have at least 2 or 3 every single game. So bringing him into a defensive line group that's going to have a rotation with A.J. Holmes, Mateen Ibaragba, Bryce Butler, Julian LaVenture, and JoJo Johnson should be amazing for this group. I'm really excited to see how he coaches these guys up. And what's kind of some of your thoughts on Coach Albury coming here, Logan?
Again, another great job by the staff replacing, Zarnell Finch with a coach of NFL level. Again, bringing in NFL caliber, not just coaches, but evaluators to allow these guys to understand what teams are looking for and how to produce at the highest level. You have A.J. Holmes, which is preseason All-American. Mateen was the number 1 interior defensive lineman in the portal. Those 2 guys are your starters, it seems like, on paper. And to have a coach come in that has produced and shown that he knows talent, and be able to get these guys technically sound and get these guys to the next level is great for Texas Tech, not only now but in the future as well.
Yeah, I think it just speaks on, our program right now. The fact that, like you just said, Coach McGuire was able to steal 2 NFL assistants. It's not like they got fired. They had jobs. They were some of the best in the business in the NFL. And the fact that Coach McGuire was able to be like, hey, come coach at Texas Tech, and they said yes to that, I think it speaks to the level of respect that this program now has, both in college and the NFL circles. And it's great to see. We'll kind of discuss it later, kind of where Texas Tech might sit as far as program rankings in the landscape of the college football world. But kind of speaking on this program too, a record 8 guys sent to the NFL Combine that starts this weekend. Unfortunately, I think it really should have been 9 with Cole Wisniewski being there as well. I can't believe he didn't get an invite after his Shrine Bowl performance. He was maybe the best safety of the whole entire week when they were there. But I'm really excited to see our guys, especially seeing Skylar Gill-Howard get invited after he really got screwed out of being in any of those Shrine Bowls and Senior Bowls because he was trying to come back for another year. Of course, the NCAA, they can never make a good decision, so they, didn't let him come back for his 5th year. But, not in Skylar's plan. Obviously, now he gets his chance to go to the NFL with guys like, of course, David Bailey, Romello Height, Lee Hunter, Jacob Rodriguez, Baron Morton gets a Combine invite, Caleb Douglas, and then Reggie Virgil. What's kind of some of your thoughts on those 8 guys being all invited to the Combine, and how do you think they're going to perform this year?
Yeah, I think that, you got 3 that stick out, obviously. The 3 that produced at the highest level last season, Lee Hunter, David Bailey, Romello Height. I think one guy out of that group, Romello Height's going to test out of the world when he tests at this Combine. His physicals are going to – he is a big, strong guy. He's going to be able to run fast. He's going to look really good, and he produced at the highest level. David Bailey, obviously, everybody knows what David Bailey is. As I've seen him as high as number 2.
Yeah.
This Combine, he might not even do half the workouts, and he wouldn't have to. And, that's just a credit to what he was able to do here last season. And I think Lee Hunter's that guy that this Combine is going to be able to allow him to show what he is able to do. He showed it at the Senior Bowl, but here's another opportunity to show the explosiveness, the power that he has in the middle, and try to push his way into the first round, because right now he's a fringe, late first, early second kind of guy. Those guys are going to have big days. I think that they're going to test really well. I think a guy that might not test as well is Jacob Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Physically, but what he has been able to do on the field, his IQ is outrageous. He's just a guy that knows football, and the Combine isn't really for the guys who are just football players. They're for athletes that are trying to show. We've seen Shamar Stewart last year for, Cincinnati coming in. He never produced at A&M, and now he's, not producing in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But he tested out of the water, became a first-round pick. I think that that's something Jacob Rodriguez may not see as much, but I think he's probably a second-round pick, in my opinion, second to third. And then Baron Morton, good for him to go out there and show what he can do. We'll see what they look like this week, but I'm excited for all the guys, for the season they had. They deserve to show up.
Yeah, the combine is the football beauty pageant.
Yeah.
It's all about who can really run the fastest 40 and
jump the farthest.
Yeah,
and lift the most.
Obviously, doesn't speak to the level of what Jacob Rodriguez can do on a football field. That guy he's going to be an absolute steal, whoever gets him. And I promise you, when you look back at the draft, they're going to be like, why was this guy not a consistent first rounder? But anyway, I mean, I think I agree with a guy like Lee Hunter. He in the strength department, I think he's a guy that is going to kill like the bench press. Might have one of the highest bench reps of any guy. I think another guy who's going to test really well too is Reggie Virgil. I think he's going to run one of the best times for wide receivers, and the fact that he is 6'5", he has a bunch of size. A team might take him a little earlier than we maybe thought, because I think he is one of those guys that's going to test really well. And he had a great Senior Bowl too. He was practice all week long. I actually wrote an article about it, how they said that Reggie all week long was really tearing it up in the second against guys in the secondary. And I think obviously another guy too that is going to have to, unfortunately perform really well at the combine is Skylar Gil-Howard, but I think he's going to do very well as well. He's a really strong guy too, and he's quick for his size too. He's an ex-linebacker converted into a defensive tackle. He should run really well for the defensive tackle group in the 40-yard dash. What do you got? Any last thoughts on the combine, Logan?
I think it's going to be fun to see a lot of Texas Tech guys out there. In the past you haven't seen as many, but this is a big opportunity for these guys and for this program to really put this program on the map in a different sense. Right now it's NIL, college football playoff. Now you have NFL talent that you're able to produce at the highest level. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. And that'll move us into our new segment, fans, the Mailbag segment. We started this. We wanted to interact with you guys some more, so we wanted to bring in some questions. We posted on our social media platforms yesterday just kind of some questions that you guys had for us on the show. So we have some questions that y'all listed for us on our social media platforms right here. First question we got, Logan. Obviously, we've been talking about it pretty much all show, but really it's thoughts and opinions on Texas Tech basketball moving forward this season, now without JT Toppin.
Man, that's a tough one. Before JT, this was a national championship contending team. Without JT Toppin, this team is a fringe, probably Sweet 16, Elite 8 team. I think, depending on how the ball bounces for you. I think that, I love this team. I love everything they have, but I just haven't seen enough to really put them in that same tier where they were a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. The name of the segment, Blazin' Hot Takes. Do you have a Blazin' hot take about whether this team is more likely to make the Sweet 16, or is softball more likely to finish with one loss that they have right now?
Well, I'm kind of biased in this. Being around the softball team, working for them, obviously, I'm going to say 59-1. The one loss was tough, man. Shouldn't have lost that game. I'm still pretty salty about that. I know Coach Glasgow is as well. But this team has all the talent in the world. I mean, we've seen it. Caitlin Terry, Nyjah Kennedy, Taylor Pandle, Mia Willie. I mean, I can go on for days. This team definitely, with the schedule that we have coming up, 59-1, obviously is extremely difficult to do. It's crazy, 59-1 or Sweet 16, but I'm going 59-1.
I agree with you. I think that, man, this softball team is something serious. I think, the Big 12 is one of the weaker softball conferences, I would say, and Texas Tech should have really no issues with who they play every single weekend. And the rest, really the toughest, non-con game left is what, Florida State?
Yeah,
right?
We'll head to Florida State spring break, so we'll be in Florida for 8 days for spring break.
And y'all already played them.
We already played them. We beat them 3-2 on a crazy catch. Shout out to Logan Holloman. Double play to end the game, man. That was insane. But it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a fun year.
Yeah, and obviously, I think our basketball team can make a Sweet 16 too. It's just gonna depend on. Really, I don't think it's not our first round matchup. It's our second round matchup,
100%.
Especially if we do stay on that 4 line and play a 5 seed. This year is so deep in March Madness. This top half, when you get past really, honestly, probably the back end of the 5 seeds, then you see that drop off. But I mean, there's no. I mean, you could see like Arkansas as a 5 seed, and we already saw how tough they were, and that was with JT. If you could, if you play them in the second round, I think that's what's so tough about this March Madness tournament. Obviously, they definitely could do it. It's going to depend on who they play, but yeah, I think softball is probably more likely with one loss. But we got our next question. What is your favorite thing to eat on game day? A little off topic. But,
yeah. Oh man, that's a good one. I'm gonna say my favorite thing to eat on game day or at a game, or what are we asking here? Because at a game, it's like I gotta have nachos. I gotta have nachos at a game day.
Or like a tailgate.
Or a tailgate.
Yeah.
Whew. Oh man, I'm a big like chicken fajita tacos kind of guy. Some barbecue, whatever. I mean, I'm picky, but not picky at those. So like whatever you got. But nachos at the game, that's like it has.
Yeah, you gotta have nachos. That's
it's like a staple.
Yeah, it's a staple, and I agree. Fajitas too. I
can't go wrong with that.
Love fajitas at the tailgate. So I'd say that's my nachos is my top.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean,
we got a next one too. This might be a kind of a Blazin hot take segment right here. Top 5 college mascots of all time.
Oh man, I might have to pass you this one first. Oh no, let's see. I gotta go. We're gonna go Raider Red because Texas Tech, obviously. Oh man, that's so hard, man. I don't know a lot of mascots, to be honest with you. I'm gonna go with I think his name is Brutus the Buckeye.
Yeah.
The Duck. Give me the Duck.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I think Bevo is super iconic. I don't like
have to put
Texas,
that
but
in
he is
there.
iconic, and you have to have him. And then I think what is it? What's the Bulldog's name? Ugga from Georgia. There's my 5 right there.
Yeah.
Not a big mascot guy.
Yeah.
Only ones I know are from like NCAA to like 2010, 2013 when I played in like mascot matchups. So there's 5 for you.
Yeah, I'd probably obviously we got to go Raider Red. Got to throw him in there. I agree. You got to throw in probably Bevo. I mean, it's too iconic. Got to throw that in there. Brutus for sure. I don't know if it's technically a mascot, but the Florida State, Seminole. I'd probably put that in there.
That's a good one.
And then I don't know. I'd probably say Oregon or the Mike the Tiger from LSU.
Okay, yeah. Good. Yeah, I like those.
But yeah,
that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. There's so many good college mascots out there, and I'm sure we're probably forgetting one that's
super iconic.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be mad at us, but no. Next question we got: hot takes for the rest of this year for Texas Tech baseball as they move forward throughout their year.
Well, I don't. I watched a little bit of the first series. They competed with some better teams in the country. Lost in extra innings to Arkansas. They got run ruled the first 2 games, but were in those games for the first 7 innings. I think that this team has a lot of question marks, a lot of new guys. I'm just not sure. I think that we're looking at maybe a fringe 20-win team, in my opinion. And that's nothing against them, but last year they were 20-33. This year I think that they're probably relatively the same. Maybe they get to 22, 23 wins. But hot take is they win 2 conference series. That's my hot take. And that's bad to say as a hot take, but it is.
No, I mean, what's unfortunate is this lineup could compete with. I mean, really,
they can mash.
They can mash. They can mash with really anyone in the country and start pitching. I mean,
can average 9 runs given up per game.
You're never going to win.
Yeah, you give up. I think they gave up 9 to Albany in Game 2, and their ERA on the season went down. That's not a good sign. And it's like polar opposite. I always bring. I'm softball guy now, but you bring up the 2 polar opposites. You have the 1 and 2 best pitchers in the entire country on one side, and the other side they can't seem to buy it out. Something's got to change for them. They got great facilities, great pitching program. I know it's the first season for the new pitching coach, so we'll see how they're able to progress as the season goes. But as of right now, pitching, you're right, is going to hold them back.
Yeah, I think we kind of were talking off camera about over under for wins. I think anywhere from that 20 to 23 mark is a good placement for over under. Hopefully they do.
Shuck as well.
Maybe it's just taking some time with the new pitching coach, and hopefully they can, because obviously, like we said, our lineup can hit with anyone. So hopefully those guys can figure it out pitching wise. But our next question we got from our fans: what was your favorite Texas Tech sports moment this year? I think for me it's pretty easy, Logan.
For me, I think it is too.
What about you?
Big 12 championship win.
Absolutely.
Undoubtedly, like, that was just an incredible experience. Us being in Arlington at AT&T Stadium was huge. That's arguably one of the biggest moments that Texas Tech football has ever had. That's the number one for me this year for sure. Beating Arizona was great. Beating Houston at home was great in basketball. But that's probably my number one.
Yeah, the Big 12 championship. I mean, that's, in my opinion at least, one of the greatest sports moments of probably my life. Seeing all the Red Raiders that were in there, the way that everyone stayed, even when the game ended, everyone stayed. It was like a big celebration inside of AT&T Stadium, and Joey McGuire getting on the mic at the end and hitting the Raider power. That I thought that was so cool. I'm like getting chills thinking about how cool that day was and how much fun it was. The fact that we had a show out there covering the game pregame, and then obviously, man, what a day that was. And to clinch, the bye, in the playoffs and that whole deal with that win over BYU, that was pretty awesome.
It was super awesome. BYU College Game Day was great. That just took the cake.
Yeah. Last question we got. Someone asked, Josh Pate listed his top 12 programs with Texas Tech listed at number 11 in the whole entire country, but it was behind programs like Texas A&M, some others that you could maybe argue with. Where would you rank Texas Tech as far as it goes with other college football programs? Do you think he hit it on the head, or do you think we're a little bit higher?
I think that for where we're at, currently, it's a relatively good spot. I think that Texas Tech as a job, a head coaching job, and a program is a fringe top 5 job in the entire country. With what you talk about with the resources, the buy-in, the fan support, the ability to bring in talent. We've seen that a good recruiter that can deal with NIL can win here. However, location, still does play a factor.
Yeah.
Where we're at, the conference we're in right now does also play a factor. So I think 11 as of right now is a pretty good spot. And, being in the top 12 as a Texas Tech program, saying this 5-6 years ago, they're like, you are full of it. But being able to be in that conversation is a great spot to be in. But I think that as you're going to progress maybe the next two or 3 years, that this is a fringe top 5 job. And a hot take to add to this is I do think Texas Tech does end up leaving the Big 12 at some point, because at some point it won't be worth it for them. You see the schedule next year. No shame to any team in the Big 12, but the schedule looks, very soft.
Yeah.
And that's no issue with Texas Tech, except for like the non-con. But it's just the way the Big 12 has unfolded and the resources that some of the schools here have or lack of. And so I do think that Texas Tech is a fringe, 10 job right now, but could get into top 5.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could argue, especially with like Texas A&M. Like, I think he had them at 9. I think you could easily argue that Tech's a better job. Then obviously they are in the SEC. They have that leg up on us. I think it's pretty fair to argue that and say that the SEC is a better conference than the Big 12 in football. But I agree. Whenever they expand the playoff again, obviously that'll come soon. Not this year, but whenever that happens, whether it's 3 or 4 years down the road, I think you are going to see maybe Texas Tech look around a little bit the way that you've heard rumors from guys like Ross Dellinger and some other national college football reporters that conferences might not even be a thing here soon. So whenever that next realignment period happens, it's supposed to happen around like 2030 or something like that. Who knows what this thing could look like. So, but I completely agree. I think Texas Tech, as we headed forward into this new world of college sports and NIL, we are absolutely a top 10 job, no doubt. And I think you have another. I think we go undefeated this year. I mean, I think it's fair to say with our schedule, we go 12-0. You go 12-0 again, go to the playoffs again. You make that a routine habit. This is no doubt a top 5 job with all the resources we have.
100%.
Yep. And then that'll wrap up our hot take mailbag segment of the week. Fans, next week, make sure to send in your questions. I think that was a really fun segment. We'll definitely continue to do that on all of our shows moving forward. But as we kind of look ahead towards this weekend, we actually do have a live show out at Golf Suites this Saturday for the Texas Tech versus Iowa State game. Fans, make sure to head on out to Golf Suites for that. Should be hopefully a really exciting game. Obviously, tonight we have our game versus Cincinnati first, but on Saturday, make sure to head on out to Golf Suites and watch. Our live show starts at 2 p.m. Should be really exciting, and that's not the only game that's huge. This whole entire week is insane with college basketball. Tomorrow, obviously, tonight we have the games, but tomorrow we got St. John's versus UConn. On Thursday, Michigan State versus Purdue. Friday, we got Michigan versus Illinois. And then on Saturday, Virginia versus Duke, Kansas versus Arizona, Texas Tech versus Iowa State, Bama versus Tennessee, Arkansas versus Florida, and Villanova versus St. John's. Absolutely loaded, Logan. What games are you most excited for the rest of this week and this weekend?
St. John's and UConn is going to be a huge game, not only for the Big East, but for the country. You know, St. John's now sole possession of first place in the Big East over UConn as of right now. This game is for it. You know, I feel like, you know, there's not a lot of good teams in the Big East so far. You know, UConn, St. John's have kind of pushed themselves away from the pack. And so I think that's going to be a huge game tomorrow. I think, obviously, Texas Tech, any game that they're in my opinion, is big for us. I think that, you know, the Michigan-Illinois game is going to be fun to watch. Two teams that, you know, Michigan, the loss to Duke, kind of got bullied in their own game. You know, Duke brought it to them physically, and now Michigan bouncing back against another big-time opponent. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think Illinois is a really, really good team. And, you know, Peja's son, you know, Andre, has had his ups and downs. He's a prolific scorer. But Keegan Wagler is one of the best freshmen in the entire country, one of the best players in the entire country. And for him to go up against, you know, that team with Elliot Cadeau and Mortez Johnson and some of those guys on that team, it's going to be fun to watch. I think probably Michigan-Illinois is probably my number one game of the week to watch. It would have been Texas Tech and Iowa State, but not totally sure what we're going to get in that game.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say Michigan and Illinois too, just because of the offensive firepower that's going to be going on in that game. And I think that, you know, a team that we played in Illinois, I think it's going to be fun to see really, you know, now that Duke and Michigan played, kind of how basically those three teams all match up. Even though we haven't played Michigan, seeing how the two teams we have played match up versus a team like Michigan should be really interesting to see. And I think Kansas versus Arizona this weekend too could be one of the games of the year. Now Kansas beating Houston last night and Arizona beating Houston this past weekend. Man, that should be an absolute battle this weekend. Now, who knows what we'll see? Obviously, you know, Pete, he's still out, but you know, Darren Peterson, it seems like these past two games he's playing the full games. We'll see how that goes this weekend, obviously versus Arizona, but should be interesting. And then obviously, I think another one that should be really good is Arkansas versus Florida. I think even though Bama beat Arkansas in that crazy overtime game when Darius Acuff had 49 in that game, he's insane. But I think Arkansas versus Florida, I think those are the two best teams in the SEC. Even though you keep seeing like March Madness people say the SEC is like 11 teams deep for March Madness, I don't agree with that at all, actually. I think that it's Florida, Arkansas, probably Bama, and then everyone else is pretty average. But I think Arkansas and Florida, they are two legit teams. I think that should be a really good matchup on Saturday as well.
Yeah, Florida playing some of their best basketball. You know, they're starting to get guard play from Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee. Xavier Lee starting to finally find his footing at the high major level. And then the front court's the best in the entire country. They have the best front court in the entire country. They dominate the boards. They dominate inside. Ruben Chimilu has been amazing this year, really coming out, turning from just a rebounder and defensive guy to an offensive threat. Tommy Houck, one of the best, threes in the entire country, and then Alec Condon was a fringe first-round pick, decided to come back to school. So they're a loaded roster. I think that they're a really good team. They're going to be a big threat in March, and according to the first, committee's first rankings, you had Michigan as the 1, Houston as the 2, Florida as the 3 in the same region. Good luck getting through that region.
That's the region of death.
So I think it's going to be really fun to watch that game.
Yeah, I think Florida, the way that they're playing right now, I think it was really just getting Xavier Lee up to speed, and now that he's playing the way I think they could have a chance to repeat with because of their front court. But obviously, as we kind of move on to our last segment, we got to shout out Texas Tech softball starting this year 16-1. Obviously, Logan, he's very in tune with the program. They should no doubt be one of the national championship contenders this year after, obviously, last year losing in heartbreaking fashion in the national championship series, but no doubt should be hopefully right back there this year. Logan, what's kind of some of your thoughts? You'll have a big weekend this weekend.
Yeah, finally back home. First home game is Thursday, 5 o'clock. North Texas will play them. Or ACU actually play ACU, but it's been a fun ride. We have 3 top 15 or fringe top 15 wins so far. A&M, Florida State. Those are the 2 big ones. But this team's got a ton of talent. I mean, you knew it coming into the season. Portal additions that we've brought in, and the pitching staff is better than expected. Caitlin Terry is right now a surefire All-American, and everybody knows what Najee Kennedy can do. And then the hitters, this is the best hitting team that Texas Tech has had probably ever, and the best team that Naja's had around her. So, yeah, we're excited. We got some big matchups coming up, this weekend, our home tournament, and then we head to Houston to start conference play. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's been fun so far, but a lot of traveling, man. A lot of traveling.
And then, obviously, wanted to shout out, obviously, to our women's basketball team, 24-5. They've had a great year. And they actually finished regular season play this Sunday. I think they play Kansas and Arizona State this week. So should be really excited to see how they finish off the year because, really kind of in a similar way to the men's team. They play up to their competition and also play down to their competition. Seems like they can play with anyone on any given night when you have girls like Snowda Collins and Bailey Maupin, obviously 2 amazing guards, and they can score with anybody. They play really good defense, but obviously some nights the shooting isn't falling and you see them kind of struggle on the road. But once again, they could finish this year 26-5. It'd be Coach Gerlich's best year as a head coach here at Texas Tech. Should be really interesting to see how they move on in the Big 12 tournament and then obviously in March Madness. What's kind of some of your thoughts on our girls team this year?
Yeah, really, really great year for them. Snowda Collins, the transfer from Ole Miss, has been amazing for this team so far. Arguably probably the best should win sixth woman of the year in the Big 12 conference. Bailey Maupin, riding it out here at Texas Tech, a Texas Tech lifer here, and she has had one of the best seasons. Texas Tech we've seen in a while from a woman. She's great. This team plays really good defense, like you said. Danae Fritz, great on-ball defender, and you got some girls in the paint that are really able to, block shots, alter shots, and has really changed the outlook for Texas Tech women's basketball. They've always been a really good defensive team since Coach Gerlich is here, but this year, like we said, bringing in Snowda Collins, Bailey Maupin taking that extra step. Now you have the offensive threats to add to the defensive ability that they have. I'm really excited to see what they're able to do in this final week and heading into postseason play.
Absolutely. And then obviously, me and Logan, we're big MLB guys, and they actually, they're starting camp right now, starting all the spring training, all the games right now. Logan, obviously, you're a big Yankees fan. What's kind of some of your thoughts on the MLB season about to get kicked off here pretty soon here in a few weeks?
Yeah, it's came pretty quickly. I'm thinking looking for a 3 straight MVP season from Aaron Judge. Man, that's my guy. always, American League, best hitter on the planet. I don't care what anybody says. Shohei might be the best all-around player. Aaron Judge is the best hitter in the league. Maybe, call me crazy, hot steak, best right-handed hitter of all time. No, whatever. But yeah, big baseball guy. Big. It's gonna be a fun year. I say it's every year. It's gonna be a fun year, and then the Dodgers just do what they do. Adding Kyle Tucker, just like and Edwin Diaz.
Yeah,
come on, man. We need a salary cap, man. There's gonna be a lockout. 100%.
Oh yeah, there's 1,000% going to be a lockout next year. Unfortunately, this might be the last year for baseball for maybe. I
don't know how long it's going to take.
It might even be 2 years.
Yeah, it's going to take a while for them to negotiate that out. Players will never want a salary cap, and teams are at the point now where it's
too far
they
gone.
have to.
Yeah.
It's like basically NIL. Pretty much NIL.
Yeah.
No stopping it. I don't know. It's gonna be fun, I guess, for the regular season, and we all know what's gonna happen at the end. But
yeah, as a Rangers fan, obviously had a tough year last year. Had a bunch of injuries, but some new pieces. Brendan Nimmo coming in, and hopefully he should be obviously not as good of a defensive replacement for Adolis Garcia, but better offensive player all around, and trading Marcus Semien and also, trading for Mackenzie Gore should shore up the end of our rotation. Should be, I think we're going to have a better year for the Rangers. Should hopefully compete for the top of the AL West. But I'm excited. I love baseball season. So
yeah, Rangers have one of the best, if not the best, rotation in the entire MLB. So they're going to be in a lot of games. So you need some bounce back years from a couple of guys, but I think y'all are in a good spot.
Yeah,
in a good spot. AL's wide open.
Oh,
wide
absolutely.
open this year.
Yeah. And that'll wrap things up here in the Miller Waldrop Studios. Once again, and thank you so much, fans, for tuning in. And for all of our segments, we just really appreciate you all for watching and following. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you are seeing our content, either on Campus Live TTU or on the Guns Blazin podcast, whether that's on social media or YouTube or wherever you are seeing it. And thank you once again to our sponsors for giving us all the continued support on Campus Live and on the Guns Blazin podcast. And, of course, lastly, remember that Campus Live is your one-stop news source for all things Texas Tech and Lubbock. Wreck 'em.